this tier list. It looks kind of wild to me because there's like sword soul and shit on it. Let me see. We need a pie chart. Get the pie chart out. Do the comparison. Perfect fucking symmetry. Basically, we see that this is how in the OCG that the metagame breakdown is for the OCG, with the Fire Kings doing the best, and then we have Snake Eye second. One, Snake Eye has also just been like winning tournaments. I'd say Snake Eye is pretty even with Fire Kings. Maybe also Snake Eye is just like harder to play than Fire Kings. I don't know. Fire Kings are pretty hard to play, and Fire Kings are probably just more FTK going first. But Fire Kings do lose to Droll more. That's like the weirdest thing about it. Now, Fire Kings, I think definitely you could arguably say that they play around Max C better, just because you can like chain Kieran to any special summon effect, so that like, you know, chain Kieran to my own Populace, negate the Populace, and then special the Kieran, Max C resolves, you don't draw any cards, so you basically just want -1. Also, we have the quick play spell that we can go for instead of the Fire King Island, if we like get Max Seed beforehand. So that could be the reason that this is like 20% more, like 23% more. But it seems like Fire Kings would also just get hit hard as fuck with Max Seed, like based on how my matches have been going. But enough of that. We'll get in the tier list and then I'll just compare to the pie chart after. So for tier 1, or tier 0, would we say Fire Kings, like, is 33% enough to justify tier 0? Maybe. We'll say like, yeah, I don't know. I mean, Fire Kings are just like it's gonna be these two decks. So we have Island, and then we have the Snake Eye, pure Snake Eye. These are the two best decks in my opinion, right now at least. And I think it's like by far, for sure. And then there's obviously direct counters. Now would like the direct counters be better, like Flu? No. So like that, I wouldn't say this is like necessarily tier 0 because they're not tier 0. So we'll just do this because I already know people get mad when you call shit tier 0. So instead of that, we won't. And then I do not think any other decks are on these two decks level. So they will not be going next to it. And what's this? So we have Bestial Runic. I mean, it's just one YCS, so it can stay there, but like Bestials do get nerfed. We'll see with the rest of the decks. Centurion, tier 2, I would say for sure. Like it hasn't even done well before, and you could argue maybe the 3 more bonfires will give you access to more starters. I don't think the access to more of the level 4 pyro is going to take it out of tier 2 or really make it that good. Branded Chimera, I would say that's probably tier 2. It's like 2 steps down below this deck for sure. Despia, I'd say Despia is arguably tier 1.5. I think Despia's gotten a lot stronger. Just with the meta, especially if Bestials are going out of the meta, it's just like the same deck. So I actually think Despia is pretty strong. Infernoble, I think Infernoble's actually pretty good still, but no one's actually going to play it, so it's not going to have the representation it needs. Like before, it was literally just like Pack playing it, and he was the only one doing well, I think. So like, yeah, this deck's going to have probably no representation, even though it is really good still. So I wouldn't put it in like, please don't play this. Kashtira, I think Kashtira is probably the best shifter deck. Now, it's going to have the same thing as Infernoble, where it's not going to have the representation necessary, I think, to like, you know, that it justifies. Because like, I do think Kashtira is the best shifter deck. So if it is the best shifter deck and shifter just destroys like mollywops, like all these decks, then like you're at least winning 33% of your games every time you open shifter, 1 out of 3, right? So it should have like relatively a good chance as long as you're winning some die rolls too. I feel like it's actually tier 1.5, but I like, just based on its tournament results, I couldn't place it above like these two decks. Now you could say it's a new format, so like a lot's changed. Yeah, I think I'd rather just be safe and put it tier 2. And then we have Labyrinth. I think Labyrinth is still insane. Transaction Rollback is a good card. Obviously, I think it struggles versus like Fire King, but all these decks are kind of going to struggle versus this deck. So I definitely think Labyrinth is going to be a great call. The problem is just if also how good people think Rescue Ace is, because Labyrinth, a lot of people are playing Cosmics right now. So I don't know, Labyrinth might be tier 2 too. That might get changed. Just because I feel like it's not like Labyrinth gets so much better when people aren't prepared for it, when they're not playing cards like specifically for Lab. I think that's when like Ryan went undefeated with the deck. It was like the first tournament, the YCS Las Vegas, the last one they had. So like people weren't prepared for the deck. That's why it did so well. When we see like Worlds format, the last Worlds we had, in Worlds format, Lab was full power, but it was the most anticipated deck. And people were playing like Lightning Storms, Cosmics on their side, Bells, and it just like destroyed it. And Bell is like a relatively okay card that people might be willing to tech just for even like Fire Kings, just for Flamebridge Dragon or Garunix. Like Bell is like okay hand trap right now, so actually I'm putting it in tier 2 because if Bell is going to be in the meta, Cosmics are in the meta to hit Fire King Island too. Lab is just getting like so nerfed by the overlap. Now I should probably do these in order, so I would say like this. I'd say Lab's better than Cash, because I do hate when people don't do these in order. Chimera, is it better than Centurion? Probably. Okay, and then we have Rescue Ace. Tier 1.5, just because it's broken, set 4 is never going to get old. Promethean Princess helps the deck a lot with playing around Infinite Impermanence. Now they basically can't get impermed on the turb like ever, because you just make SP Little Knight and Turbulence, and then you imperm on summon, then you just make Promethean Princess and do it again. So I think Rescue Ace obviously get a huge buff with that of Populous. Now Rescue Ace I do think struggles pretty heavily versus these two decks, the Fire King Island deck and the Populous. So I would put it below Despia, even though that might be giving Despia too much credit, but yeah, I think it's below Despia. Vanadium, I think Droll is going to be in everyone's main deck. So Vanadium by consequence just gets nerfed, even though it hasn't really gotten hit. It still gets hella nerfed by the hand traps people are choosing to play. And I just don't think it's a good meta call right now. Even though Vanadium's still really strong, it is a Dweller deck. It could blind Dweller, so maybe that takes it up a notch. At least above Kashtira, but below Labyrinth for sure. I think that's fair. Because it's like, for Italy, for example, the last YCS I played, everyone was playing, or there's this player I played like round 12, and he was making Blind Dweller the whole YCS. And that was like before these two, you know, when it was just like tier limit and shit. So I think, I definitely think that Vanadium could have like some FTK potential when it's going first, just with that Dweller, SP Little Knight, but the hand traps, the Droll, Lockbird, Nib being in the main war are going to hurt it. Exo Sister, definitely a worse cash deck. Yeah, I don't think Exo's that great of a meta call. It hasn't actually seen like any success anyway. Pearly. I think Pearly is still very good. I definitely think it's better than Labyrinth. It did get nerfed, so it's gonna hurt that. It's also probably gonna have the same representation as Cash. I don't think a lot of Pearly players are going to continue playing the Pearly deck because there's just things that look way better and they might think it's about time. And Pearly is a really punishing deck, so if not a lot of good players are playing it, and I want my results to be accurate for like a prediction, I should probably have Pearly in tier 2 because it's probably just not going to make its top cut a lot. The thing that Pearly really has going for it is a lot of people aren't playing cards with overlap. Thing it doesn't have going for it is like Kieran Pop doesn't target. That's the same problem for Mud Dragon that we see. Like your field spell is just not as good anymore. But Noir with 5 materials, decks really can't out it that well. Like people won't be playing Underworld Goddess. That's the biggest thing Pearly has going for it, is that people won't be playing cards that counter it, like at all. Pearly plays well into Nib. Pearly plays well into Droll. Plays well into Imperm, and especially if people are cutting Ash, because Ash just makes Promethean Princess a link 2. It's definitely gonna hurt a lot. Like, I mean, yeah. So if people are cutting Ash, then, but I doubt people will cut Ash. So I'll put Pearly in tier 2 actually. And we will put it above Vanadium for sure. And probably, yeah, below Labyrinth. I'll put it above Labyrinth. And then we have the Voiceless Voice deck. This deck gets wrecked by Super Poly. Gets wrecked by a lot of hand traps, I would say. Not as much Droll or like Nibiru because you're summoning your Omni Negate so soon. But this deck just seems so weak to me on paper. Yeah, I don't think that this deck will be very good. It might get a lot of play at first, but it's definitely like more of an FTK deck. I don't see it playing through boards really well. Now, was it be below Kashtira? I feel like, yeah. Yeah, I feel like better than I mean, it's definitely going to do better than the Cash deck, probably. Like, because not many people are going to be playing the Cash deck. Is it better than any of these? I don't know. I definitely haven't seen it do enough. But it is just like, maybe it's just like so consistent going first that it will be good. I'm going to still put it below Vanadium. And then we have Orcust. Orcust would probably be somewhere like here. Probably around here. Orcust have a lot of broken cards, but it's just like, definitely I feel like there's just too much power creep for it to be like a really strong contender. So I would put it probably behind Guardian Chimera. I feel like I'd be more scared to play Branded Chimera than I would Orcust, so. Rika, I've seen some cool Rika builds with the Aphora cards or whatever, the Aroma cards. That's really cool, but that version kind of plays into Nib a lot more. Definitely got nerfed. Yeah, Rika's probably going to be all the way in the back here. I want to put it in the please don't play this, because I definitely think Rika still has the potential to top YCS's, but I don't think it's a very good deck. Flu, I think Flu will be probably right, like just a tad worse than Kashtira as a shifter deck. I just think Kashtira is the stronger shifter deck right now. Yeah, I mean Flu's still really strong, but like I said, people playing Cosmics, you know, even Droll and Lockbird definitely is going to hurt it a lot. Maybe it should be even lower, but people are going to probably cut Effect Veiler, and that also is a card that hurts Flu. So I think that's a good spot for it. You know, I give more respect to like choosing these counter decks, because like at least it's kind of like a meta call compared to like these decks, which may just be definitively worse than everything above it, besides like the shifter decks. Obviously the shifter decks might lose to these decks, but the shifter decks are going to be really good versus these ones. Then we have Sprite Runic. Sprite Runic, I think, is not strong at all, and I would definitely put it in the please don't play this. I did see that 60 card build that just topped a regional. It looked really cool. I don't think it was playing Runic cards though, but I think Sprite as a deck is also pretty weak to Droll. Like, you just add anything, like now you're not getting your Jet. It just seems like so much weaker than these other decks. I think Power Spell Sprite, where you just choose to go second, is pretty cool. But the Runic version, I don't know. Sprite is just like so power crept, it seems. Sky Striker, yeah, sorry, I just don't think the deck is definitely good enough to compete with any of these other ones. Sprite, Dragon Link. I have not seen Dragon Link in a while. Maybe Dragon Link's still good. It's like the Bystials aren't useless. You could still use Bystials on like Diabellstar cards, IP Masquerena when they're trying to Flame Bridge it, Link Karibo. So it's like you're still gonna resolve them. But who am I kidding? If people are playing Droll and Nib in the main, it's the same shit for like all these other decks. Like, yeah, this deck, it's getting so punished by like just what cards are good versus the best decks, which is Droll and Nib in this deck. It's definitely weak for Droll for sure. Sword Soul, yeah, Sword Soul's been long gone, unfortunately. Tearlaments, now the Tearlament Lyralist deck is actually a little scary. I think that deck's pretty strong. Tearlament also can make Dweller really well. So I think Tearlament and Bystials are going out of favor. I would probably rather play Tearlament than like Kashtira. If I had the choice, I think Tearlament is just like, you know, still has, even though you lost to Guido Kelbeck, there's just so many cards that can function and take those spots and just like play a different engine, and you're still doing broken tier things where you're specialing all these fusions. You don't like, you can play well into like the destruction effects because you know your cards trigger. So I think Tier Limit's like not the worst deck, definitely not the best deck either. Unchained, I think Unchained is like really strong versus a lot of the rogue decks, so I do see Unchained being able to top still. Now it definitely seems like it gets destroyed by like a deck like Pure Snake Eye. I think it can kind of play into, you know, Fire Kings a little well, but it also bricks a lot. But you do get another benefit is people probably aren't going to be playing the Bystials. I'd probably place Unchained above Guardian Chimera. And then we have Vanquish Soul. Vanquish Soul is something that like I'm so not sure about. But it's probably better than Rika, right? So you can give it that. Okay, and then this is the tier list. Definitely let me know what you think about this tier list. If it is just inaccurate as hell. I didn't put a deck for tier 0. I mean, that's like the whole like dumb thing about tier 0 is like these could have just been there. But you know, usually for tier 0 people think it has to be like 80% win rate, but like that's still kind of impossible for a deck. Like, I forget what tier had at its like peak. I think it was just like 50%. Something like that. Oh, and then let's compare it to this chart now. So we have Fire King at 1, Snake Eye at 2. Voiceless Voice is doing a lot better than I'm giving it credit for. Maybe, but like, is Voiceless Voice a good deck into Max E? I feel like it might be. I don't know. Voiceless Voice just aren't impressing me. So maybe I should have Voiceless Voice higher. I mean, obviously Rescue Ace is looking a lot worse. Flu's even looking better. But with Max C, I think Flu get a real buff like over like Kashtir and the OCG because you have no Max C. So like literally they can't like go draw phase Max C. So like Flu get 3 dead cards no matter what matchup they're playing against. There's 3 dead cards in the deck. Then we have Despia. Despia is like pretty high up there. Rescue Ace back there, but you know, Rescue Ace is still solid. I think if people do choose to play it, which they might, it'll probably still do a lot better. I think it definitely could be, Rescue Ace might actually just be above Despia in terms of how these YCSs are going to play out for this format. And then Pearly's not even here. Lab is up there, so that was good. Yeah, so it's pretty similar. Yeah, let me know what you guys think. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe, and peace.